Hi, I'm Jack Murphy, filling in for Greg Everett. Again, on this edition of All American People, we're going to put the spotlight again on the Conway High School Educational Foundation, and we'll meet a board member whose roots really run deep with the high school. That and more coming up on today's All American People. Hello and welcome to another edition of All American People. Greg Everett off today, and I'm off every day. I'm Jack Murphy. Joining us now is Ann Stalvey. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Do you feel right at home here on the Waccamaw?
Waccamaw River is home to me.
You got some stories? Maybe we'll save those for another day.
That might be a good idea.
Well, let's talk about growing up in this area, because you did do that. And so often, I think that it was said the other day that we have probably just as many folks living in the county now that aren't from here that grew up here. County's changed a lot since you were a little girl, hasn't it?
It definitely has changed a lot. And we see changes every day, but when I think back when I was a toddler, up on the corner of 5th Avenue and Elm Street where I was born, it's quite different now.
Completely changed, and more changes are coming.
And that's good.
Well, growing up in this area, you've obviously been at that point in your teaching career that you've got kids whose kids have gone through. I talked to Leslie McIver on an earlier broadcast who has taught in the schools around this area. He said he's at the point where he has even grandkids of some of his first students. Are you at that point too?
Yes. Yes, I thought you meant my own children and their children. However, my students, I have had children of the students that I've taught.
Yeah. Are they inquisitive about, they ask you questions about what it was like for their mom and dad to...
No, it ages me when they come through the door, though. But one of my students one day went home and asked her mom, "Did you really go to Miss Stalvey's geometry class?" And she said yes. And she said there's no way that she's old enough to have taught you. So that gave her a good grade for the first 9 weeks period.
Well, when did you start teaching? Because it was, I'm puzzled. I think you said the 50s?
58
Goodness
was my first year of teaching, yes, here in Conway. Now, I had taught 2 years before that in Columbia.
So we're back to 1956. My goodness gracious, what's your secret?
I don't know.
Well, you look young.
Well,
That's what I'm alluding to there.
You should run for office.
And I just might. I don't know how many votes I would get. That's another story. Don't turn the tables on me and you start interviewing me, but I appreciate that. But the connection with Conway High School, how'd that come about? Well,
first of all, I attended Conway High School, and my mother taught at Conway High School, and I taught at Conway High School.
Wow.
I married Rupert Stalvey, who graduated from Conway High School, and his mom and dad graduated from Conway High School. We had one son, Miles, and he graduated from Conway High School in 1987. So we really have a connection there through the years.
Unbelievable. Yeah, yes. You really do. Well, I'm hearing some stories from other board members is that the decisions that are made as far as the foundation goes are made relatively quickly. They say in about an hour with you.
Well, not necessarily. It's always a group decision.
Right. Well, how did you become connected? Were you there at the beginning? Did you start the organization?
I was there in the beginning teaching at Conway High School, and one day, I think it was probably 1984, I came through the office after school, and Mike King, who was the principal at that time, approached me and gave me some literature about about high school educational foundations, and wanted to know if I would be interested in helping to start one of those at Conway High. And I thought about it, and I thought it would be a really wonderful opportunity. So we began meeting, and we met together, Mike King, Irby Coon, Chip Brown, and I met on Saturday mornings, and occasionally Howard Smith came. He was a CPA, and he sort of helped us as well as a couple of other attorneys we had working with our board. They helped us to obtain our tax-free status. So the CPAs and the attorneys are always good to have around.
That's always a good thing. I think we're going to lead into another area here before we let you get out of here, because if you're thinking of starting, I mean, that's basically how you do it. You kind of get the input from accountants and lawyers and get your nonprofit status set up.
One other thing we did, we made a couple of trips to Columbia. At that time, the only other educational foundation in South Carolina was at Spring Valley High School in Columbia. And so we visited that group and patterned ours after theirs. And we got a copy of their bylaws and worked through and made it match what we wanted to do here, and that helped a lot.
Yeah, if you're in that situation, I mean, you can customize. I mean, there's no really straight cookie-cutter approach to it. You can, whatever you want your foundation to do, but you have to set it up in those bylaws early on.
That's true.
How was the path chosen for the direction of your foundation? I mean, was it because you were a teacher there and seeing some needs that weren't being met? I mean, was that instrumental in the decision?
It was mainly because it was a new path that we could take to. Well, the foundation is, I guess you would say, a vehicle through which our community can donate to the high school and help us in encouraging excellence in education at the school. So that's our main goal.
You go out and you get input from teachers as to see what their needs are?
Yes, we do.
This done on an annual basis or throughout a school year? Or?
Well, we're always available to listen. We have a time during each year when we respond to their requests.
Well, if you're just joining us, shame on you. We're having a delightful conversation with a lifelong educator, Ann Stalvey, here on All American People. We're talking about the Conway High School Educational Foundation. Was it your brainchild, or was it your idea? I mean, who really had the initial deal, and how did you hear about Spring Valley? How did you know there was an animal like that out there?
I don't remember. You know, you never know the original idea for something like this. Of course, Mike handed me an article from a magazine about high school foundations, and then the information came through him about the Spring Valley High School in Columbia. Carolyn Gobble, who was a teacher at Conway High School then, and I think she had been before and talked with the lady there, and she went with me when we went back to visit.
Sure. Well, you look at the success based on track record and tracking results. Are there some pretty major accomplishments that you guys have done through the years?
Well, I suppose in thinking about the things that the foundation has done, the scholarships, I think, have been very important. And also our response to funding requests from the teachers that help with their classroom projects and help to make their classroom work more interesting.
Well, how does the scholarship side of things work?
Well, during the years that we have been formed, we have had a total of 13 scholarships established. And 4 of them, I think, are in memory of teachers who have taught at Conway High School.
Okay.
And 4 are in memory of students who attended Conway High School. And then others are directed towards special groups. And anyone could set up a scholarship. You know, we meet with them and think of the things that they would like to establish with their scholarship and work it out. And then we work with the guidance department there as they tell the students about the different scholarships.
Sure.
And we have had 4 in memory of students, and that would be Jenny Timms, Julie Guyton, Jessie Gardner, and Scotty Breen. All of those attended Conway High School, so those were memorial scholarships for them. And then for teachers, the Alma Lewis Scholarship, the Alma Long Mathematics Scholarship, the S.L. Lemon Scholarship, and there was a scholarship in memory of Jean Todd, who also was a teacher. Then we've had several others on varying subjects. One was a swim team scholarship, and then we have the Chancellor Scholarship given by a business in Conway, and one of our main scholarships was the Watson Scholarship, which was established by the Charles Watson family.
Right.
And it was given to, or it's still given to students who plan to attend Coastal Carolina University.
Yeah, each of those scholarships, I'm sure, have their own little set of requirements and guidelines.
Exactly.
Do you promote that information out on your website, or how do people find out what scholarships are available through you?
Well, our website is a relatively new thing with us, and that is certainly something that we would like to promote on that. We have someone always in the guidance department at Conway High School who approaches the students during their senior year to inform them of the different scholarships that are available.
And once the applications are made, is there scholarship committees, or does it fall back on the board itself?
Well, Conway High School has a scholarship committee, and one of the scholarships is promoted by the Fine Arts Club of Conway, and there's a committee from the Conway Fine Arts Club that works with them in choosing the recipients there. So it varies, but most of them are done through the regular scholarship committee at Conway High.
Well, on the teacher's request, you being a teacher, I'm sure that you always love to get the input of the teachers.
Yes.
How has what they're requesting changed through the years? Since
Well, in the beginning, it has changed from that time, because in the beginning we didn't have that much money, and we had what we called a wishing well, and you could maybe wish for something and you might get $100 to help you with a project, and that grew through the years until generally they receive a total during the year of maybe $10,000 to $12,000. Now this year it was a smaller amount because of our economy, and it was not available. But they request sets of novels for their classroom, equipment to be used in science classes. The ROTC group gets scholarships so that the students can attend Leadership Academy.
Sure.
There are many, many worthwhile things that come from this.
Pretty much I'm hearing that when a request is made, they get an answer relatively quickly, and yes or no, and if it's yes, they pretty much know how much funding they're going to get in a short time.
Yes, and in many cases, if we can't respond to that particular thing, we find ways that they can obtain what they want.
Sure.
At one time we had a physician on our board who had medical equipment that could be used for what they wanted in their science class. So we had ways to help them, even if we didn't have the money at that time.
Well, through the years, you've probably had the opportunity to serve with a lot of wonderful folks through the foundation.
We have, and it's always very rewarding to see their response to receiving help, and to watch them as they go on away to school and what they accomplished during that time.
A lot of changing personalities. Do you stay in touch with them even though they may exit the board?
We keep up often. And of course, one person we're honoring today is Christy McPherson, and we keep up with her through newspaper, television, and all
Some folks are a little easier to keep up with, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, just a little bit. That's pretty incredible. Well, the functions such as this, do you have any role in organizing them since you've been to several in the past, and what's the significance of an event like we're having this evening?
Well, the Hall of Fame banquet began in 1992. As a matter of fact, this is our 20th year.
How about that? Wow.
Tonight, and we began honoring an educator and an alumnus year. And sometimes there were 2 educators, and sometimes there were 2 who had graduated from the, it was just according to the year. The first year we honored Thurman Anderson as educator, who was at that time the superintendent of education. And also we honored General Vaught that year, who was a graduate of Conway High School.
Okay. And it's almost like a who's who when you start going through who's been honored through the years, isn't it?
We think so, yes. And it's always good to call on the public to think of people. It makes them have more interest in Conway High School, but they come up with people that they think would be wonderful to honor, and we have responded to that. And it's always good to honor a person and then take time to realize all they have really done. And it makes us proud that we are a part of a school that has produced people who have done things like this.
Yeah, pretty incredible.
So for that reason, we think the Hall of Fame tradition will live on.
Sure. I know it does your heart proud. You know, you start thinking about folks that you pass them on the street in the halls, and you think you know them, and they may have something they're involved in, you not know it, and you hear about those contributions that they make.
That's exactly right, and it is so wonderful to sit and listen, just as we'll do tonight, to those who have done really wonderful things.
Wonderful stories.
Right.
Everybody that goes through school, and I'm sure the same thing was true of you, is that they had teachers that made a difference in their life, and it was something so simple too. I can't even, every grade I had a teacher that had some impact on me, and things that they said in the classroom, and it's been 25, 30 years, I'll hear a phrase uttered and it'll send me reeling back. Do you remember some? I know that you have students for teaching as long as you did that you made an impact, but do you remember some teachers that
I certainly do, yes.
influenced you?
I suppose one who influenced me most was Mr. S.L. Lemon, who taught mathematics, and he was my geometry teacher, and everybody went in his class with fear and trembling, but they listened to what he had to say, and they learned. And he always called me Young Long. My maiden name was Long, so he would say, "Young Long, go to the board." And it was always something that sometimes you look forward to, but sometimes you did not.
You always gave the long answer to everything that was posed, right?
There you go.
Absolutely.
Another teacher who had a great influence on me was Evelyn Snyder. She taught English when I was a senior. And at the end of the year, she had what she called a knockdown, drag-out grammar test. I'm not even sure they teach grammar anymore, but if you graduated from her class or passed her KDDO, she called the knockdown, drag-out test, you were prepared for college. And I was very glad when the day came that I passed that test and was ready to go to college.
Kind of had the heads up. You had college prep already in there. We're ready for it.
That's true.
Great stories. Do you see some approaches to education in the classroom now that were different? I mean, obviously they're a lot different, but challenges. I mean, if you were coming out of college now, would you have chosen the teaching profession?
I think I would have.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed teaching. It meant a lot to me. Sometimes there were extra things that you had to do that weren't on my agenda.
Sure.
But anyway, I enjoyed the students and I enjoyed teaching.
There wasn't groups such as the foundation. If you needed something, teachers of my generation, they just went to the hip and went out and bought those things if they didn't have them.
That's exactly right. That was
the way it was done.
That's exactly right. If you needed it and you wanted it bad enough, you went to get it.
And you wanted to get something that you could use year after year if you could, possibly.
There you go.
Yeah, incredible. What's the biggest challenges you think for the teacher now in the classroom?
Oh, there are many challenges. As you have mentioned, things change so much through the years, and the teacher has a responsibility to keep up with our changing world as well, and to keep the students interested in what's happening and to encourage them in any way that they can. I think is very important.
Well, I know parents are a little prejudiced when they see their kids with accomplishments. Do you have a similar sense of pride as a teacher? I mean, do you see people that in the classroom you knew they had it in them, they maybe didn't apply themselves there directly, but you said something those last few days that you had them in your class and something just kind of triggered in some folks?
Well, there's some who I knew when I taught them that they would be an outstanding person at some point in their life. And one of the teachers who is being honored tonight is someone who I taught. And when I looked at her smiling face and her happy face in class, I knew one day she would be very good at what she did. And it was wonderful that it was teaching. And, so that's always good to teach them and then see later on that they have done something really outstanding.
Rewards keep coming, you keep giving back. Did you ever learn anything though from the students through your many years of teaching? Were there instances where the students taught you something as well?
Yes. Yes, you had to learn to keep up.
Sure.
And yes, you learn many things from them. Well, first of all, you learn what their life outside of school was like, which of course was different from the time when I grew up. And sure. It was always good to keep up with things that they are confronted with when they are away from school, so we know what they bring with them when they come
sure.
to class.
And they bring it to the classroom, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
And hopefully those good experiences they take home with them as well.
Hopefully,
yeah.
Yes.
Well, thanks for all your years of dedicated service. It's incredible. Started teaching in 1956. I would never, ever have guessed that.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, good for you. Good
well,
seeing
I've
you.
enjoyed it all.
Come back to see us.
Thank you so much for what you do for our community.
Well, thank you so much. I'm just a relief pitcher, so they say today. But thank you for coming by. You come back too. A little more of All American People here from the banks of the Waccamaw in just a moment. Well, folks, a good show today on All American People. Thank you, Greg Everett, for letting me sit in with you. You know, when you start thinking about 1956, when our guest, Ann Stalvey, started teaching, Elvis Presley was heard on very few radios at that time. And through the years, she somehow managed to keep doing it her way. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of All American People, and we'll see you next time.